New tonight, a break in the case of a mother of five shot to death in downtown West Palm Beach. Police say the killer is her abusive ex-boyfriend. Good evening, I'm Todd McDermott.
And I'm Felicia Rodriguez. Thank you for joining us. Only on WPBF 25 News, the woman's brother is telling her story, what he lost and what her children lost. Ari Height has more.
According to the West Palm Beach police, this all happened Sunday night. Vivienne Otero was parked in a car here at the corner of Sappadilla Avenue and Clematis Street. They say that is when she was shot by her ex-boyfriend. Just like that, her 5 children were without a mother, and Jamie Otero had lost his only sister.
At 9:45 p.m. on Sunday, December 15th, 2024, a 911 call came in to West Palm Beach Emergency Dispatch. The male caller stated that he and his girlfriend had been fighting and that a gun had gone off. He claimed he had accidentally shot her. Then he hung up. Minutes later, the same man flagged down a police officer and said 5 words, "I think she's dead." The man was 51-year-old Dimitri Reynolds. The woman was 41-year-old Vivienne Otero, mother of 5 children. She was in the passenger seat of her 2018 Nissan Rogue, parked at Clematis Street and Sappadilla Avenue in downtown West Palm Beach. She had been shot once in the left cheek. She was deceased. This was not a random act of violence. This was the end of a 9-year relationship marked by documented domestic violence, multiple police calls, and a cycle that everyone saw but no one could stop. Vivienne Otero was the mother of 5 children, ages 7 to 16. According to everyone who knew her, those children were her entire world. She was their primary caregiver, their protector, their everything. Her brother, Jaime Otero, was her closest family connection. He described their relationship as more than siblings. They were best friends.
She always had my back. Even if I was wrong, she always had my back. She'd tell me I was wrong later, but she always had my back.
Jamie Otero says Vivienne Otero may have been his baby sister, but the two always watched out for each other. He calls her his best friend, and he always knew nothing was more important to her than her 5 children, ages 7 to 16.
She would literally catch a grenade for her kids. She just was really adamant about making sure her kids were raised a proper way.
Sunday night, Vivian was in a car with her ex-boyfriend, Dimitri Reynolds, at the corner of Clematis Street and Sappadilla Avenue in West Palm Beach. According to the police report, the two had just ended a 9-year on-again, off-again relationship. Dimitri had called her the day before, threatening to shoot everyone. It's not clear why Vivian was in a car with him, but police say Dimitri shot her. He says by accident. Police knocked on Jamie's door at 2 a.m. to tell him his sister was gone.
Trying to get the arrangements done. I'm trying to just stay focused on trying to make sure the kids are good and everything's going well with them.
And that's become Jamie's focus now, the kids. They've moved in with him and he plans to care for them.
That's my sister's kids. That's what she wanted. I'm going to carry that out. I can't turn my back. Those are kids.
He says he'll do whatever he can for them, whatever he can, to make Vivian proud.
She was like my angel. She was a great person, a great mom. And I miss her. And her kids miss her.
For 9 years, Vivian and Dimitri repeated the same pattern. Violence would occur, police would be called, a separation would follow. Then reconciliation would happen, bringing temporary calm before the next incident. This cycle is textbook domestic violence. An incident of abuse is followed by apologies and promises to change. The abuser exhibits improved behavior during what experts call the honeymoon phase. This creates hope that the relationship has fundamentally changed. When violence recurs, the victim attributes it to external stress rather than the abuser's character. The cycle repeats, with violence escalating in severity and frequency over time. Trauma bonding makes these relationships nearly impossible to leave. The victim experiences intermittent reinforcement, periods of fear alternating with periods of calm. The nervous system becomes conditioned to associate the abuser with both danger and safety, creating powerful emotional attachment that defies logical risk assessment. Vivian experienced this for 9 years. Each time she left, she faced pressure to return, financial constraints, concern for her children, the psychological pull of a relationship that had consumed nearly a decade of her life. Each time she returned, those who loved her grew more frustrated, more worried, more helpless. But in December 2024, something changed. In early December 2024, Vivian met someone new. This person treated her differently than Reynolds had. This contrast gave her something she had not had before: perspective on what a relationship could be. On December 9, 2024, Vivian posted on Facebook, "This man has done more in 2 weeks than you have in 9 years, and that's why it was easy to walk away." This was not subtle. This was a public declaration that she was done with Dimitri Reynolds. After 9 years of difficulty, of cycling through leaving and returning, she was stating that ending the relationship was now easy because she had found better treatment elsewhere. 5 days later, on December 14, 2024, Vivian updated her Facebook relationship status. She was officially in a new relationship. The separation from Reynolds was not temporary this time. She had moved on. She was choosing a different future. For Vivian and her children, this represented hope. For Dimitri, it represented loss of control over someone he had dominated for 9 years. On December 14, 2024, the same day Vivian posted her new relationship status, police received a 911 call about an incident at her residence. Dimitri Reynolds was inside her home. He had a gun. According to the police report, he was threatening to shoot everyone, not just Vivian, everyone. This included potential threats to her 5 children. Police responded. By the time officers arrived, Reynolds had fled. He was gone before police could locate him. The incident was documented in a report. Whether officers attempted to locate Reynolds afterward, whether they advised Vivian on protective measures, whether they assessed the elevated risk, none of this is confirmed in public records. What is documented is this: less than 24 hours after Reynolds entered Vivian's home with a gun and threatened to shoot everyone, Vivian ended up alone with him in a vehicle. The circumstances that led Vivian to meet with Reynolds less than 24 hours after he threatened her family are not fully clear. She may have agreed to meet hoping to de-escalate the situation. He may have promised to leave her alone after one final conversation. He may have threatened worse violence if she refused. She may have feared he would show up at her home again where her children were. Victims of domestic violence often agree to final meetings with abusers. They hope providing closure will end the harassment. They believe meeting in public locations will ensure safety. They have been conditioned over years to manage the abuser's emotions and prevent escalation. These beliefs are generally wrong, but they persist because the victim has been psychologically trained to take responsibility for the abuser's behavior. Vivian experienced this for 9 years. Each time she left, she faced pressure to return, financial constraints, concern for her children, the psychological pull of a relationship that had consumed nearly a decade of her life. Each time she returned, those who loved her grew more frustrated, more worried, more helpless. But in December 2024, something changed. On Sunday evening, December 15, 2024, Vivienne Otero was in the passenger seat of her 2018 Nissan Rogue, parked at Clematis Street and Sapodilla Avenue in downtown West Palm Beach. She had been shot once in the left cheek. She was deceased. After shooting Vivian, Reynolds called 911. He told the operator that he and his girlfriend had gotten into it and that the gun had gone off. He claimed he had accidentally shot her. Then he hung up. Minutes later, the same man flagged down a police officer and said 5 words: "I think she's dead." Officers found Vivienne Otero in the passenger seat of the Nissan Rogue with a gunshot wound to the left cheek. Paramedics were called. Vivian was pronounced dead. Dimitri Reynolds was arrested at the scene without incident. The crime scene was processed by forensic investigators. The vehicle was photographed. Blood spatter was analyzed. Bullet trajectory was calculated. The firearm was recovered and tested. gunshot residue would establish who fired the weapon. Digital evidence told its own story. Vivian's Facebook posts from December 9th and 14th established her state of mind. She had ended the relationship and moved on. Cell phone records would place Reynolds at the scene. Text messages or social media communications would show their interactions before the meeting. Police records documented 9 years of domestic violence between Reynolds and Vivian. The December 14th incident, Reynolds armed and threatening to shoot everyone less than 24 hours before Vivian's death, was particularly significant. This established recent escalation and demonstrated his willingness to use lethal threats. The online 911 recording preserved Reynolds' own words. His statement to the officer, "I think she's dead," was documented. Any statements during arrest or questioning were recorded. All of this built a timeline establishing Reynolds' state of mind, his actions, and the circumstances of the encounter. This evidence would determine whether prosecutors could prove the shooting was intentional rather than accidental, as Reynolds claimed. Dimitri Reynolds was charged with second-degree murder. Under Florida law, this charge requires proof that he intentionally killed Vivian, but without premeditation. Prosecutors concluded Reynolds intended to kill Vivian when he pulled the trigger, but did not plan the killing in advance. Evidence supporting intentional killing includes the 9-year history of domestic violence, the armed threat 24 hours earlier, the separation and new relationship that threatened Reynolds' control, and the physical evidence of how the shooting occurred. Reynolds' defense focuses on his claim that the shooting was accidental. He called 911 immediately. He contacted police voluntarily. He stated it was an accident. However, these actions are also consistent with panic after realizing the consequences of intentional killing. As of available information, Reynolds remained in custody awaiting trial. The legal process would determine his accountability for Vivian's death. Vivian's death left 5 children aged 7 to 16 without their mother. They lost their primary caregiver in a sudden, traumatic, and public manner. They learned their mother was killed by a man they knew who had been part of their lives for 9 years. Vivienne Otero became their primary caregiver. This required immediate transformation of his entire life. He had to accommodate 5 children in his housing, stretch his financial resources to cover their needs, provide emotional support to children experiencing acute trauma. The practical challenges are substantial. 5 children require 5 sets of school enrollments, medical care, clothing, food, and daily coordination. Each child has individual needs based on age and personality. A 7-year-old requires different care than a 16-year-old. Beyond practical needs, each child processes trauma differently. Younger children may not fully understand death's permanence. Older children comprehend the finality but struggle with the circumstances. All face disrupted attachment and loss of their primary secure relationship. Research shows that children who lose a parent to violence face elevated risks for mental health challenges, academic difficulties, and relationship problems extending into adulthood. Early intervention can mitigate these risks but cannot eliminate them. Jaime stated that Vivian would have done the same for him. He is trying to be for the children what Vivian was for him, their angel. This commitment provides stability for children who have lost their anchor. The children will grow up with questions. They will process anger, grief, and loss over many years. The support they receive now will influence their outcomes throughout their lives. Vivienne Otero's death follows a documented pattern in domestic violence homicides. Women are at highest risk of being killed by an intimate partner immediately after separation. This risk increases significantly when the abuser has documented history of violence, access to weapons, and has made threats to kill. Dimitri Reynolds exhibited every identified risk factor in the 48 hours before Vivian's death. A 9-year history of domestic violence, access to a firearm, threats to kill on December 14th, violent response to her new relationship, and final separation. The December 14th incident, Reynolds entering Vivian's home armed and threatening to shoot everyone in her house, was the clearest warning. This occurred less than 24 hours before he killed her. Police responded, Reynolds fled, yet no mechanism prevented him from accessing Vivian the next day. Standard risk assessment protocols exist for identifying high-danger domestic violence situations. These evaluate history of violence, separation attempts, stalking, threats to kill, access to weapons, and mental health factors. When multiple risk factors are present, intensive intervention is indicated. Whether such assessment occurred in Vivian's case is not documented publicly. Whether she was offered protective orders, safe housing, or enhanced police monitoring is unknown. The outcome indicates that whatever interventions occurred were insufficient. This pattern repeats nationally. Victims often have prior law enforcement contact. Prior reports document abuse history, yet coordination failures, resource limitations, and lack of effective intervention models result in lethal deaths. 9 years of domestic violence reports, an armed threat 24 hours before the killing, clear public statements that she had ended the relationship. All these factors were known or knowable. None prevented her death. The most difficult question is why Vivian met with Reynolds less than 24 hours after he threatened to shoot everyone in her house. From outside perspective, this decision appears incomprehensible, but this analysis fails to account for the psychological dynamics of long-term domestic violence. Vivian had spent 9 years with Reynolds. She had experienced repeated cycles of violence followed by reconciliation. She had developed conditioned responses to his behavior. When abusers contact victims after separation, victims face impossible decisions. Refusing contact may escalate the abuser's behavior. The abuser may show up at home, work, or children's schools. The abuser may threaten to harm themselves or others. The abuser may promise to leave the victim alone after one final conversation. Victims agree to final meetings attempting to prevent further harassment. They believe explaining their decision will make the abuser accept it. They believe closure will end harassment. They believe public locations ensure safety. These beliefs are generally incorrect. Abusers do not accept separation through calm explanation. Closure does not end harassment. Public locations do not guarantee safety, as Vivian's death in downtown West Palm Beach demonstrates. But these beliefs persist because victims have been conditioned to manage the abuser's emotions. After years of preventing outbursts and taking responsibility for the abuser's behavior, victims believe correct behavior can control outcomes. Vivian may have believed meeting Reynolds would let her explain and ask him to leave her alone. She may have believed the public location ensured safety. She may have feared refusing would result in him returning to her home where her children were. She may have hoped to de-escalate after the December 14th armed threat. All these motivations are consistent with how domestic violence victims think after years of conditioning. None protected her. Jaime Otero lost his sister and became responsible for 5 children. He faced practical burdens of sudden guardianship while processing acute grief. In interviews, he spoke of Vivian's loyalty and her dedication to her children. He committed to raising them because she would have done the same. The 5 children lost their mother traumatically and publicly. They moved from their mother's care to their uncle's care, processing grief while adapting to new living arrangements and realities. Media coverage initially focused on dramatic elements: a woman shot downtown, an ex-boyfriend arrested, 5 children orphaned. This coverage documented the pattern leading to Vivian's death. It illustrated how domestic violence homicides follow predictable trajectories visible to others but difficult to prevent. It showed separation as the most dangerous time. It demonstrated how prior police contact does not guarantee future protection. On December 15, Vivienne Otero was shot in the left cheek while sitting in her vehicle in downtown West Palm Beach. She was 41 years old. She left 5 children aged 7 to 16. Dimitri Reynolds was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. He claimed the shooting was accidental. The evidence suggests otherwise. The 9-year relationship was marked with documented domestic violence. Police had responded to multiple calls. On December 14th, less than 24 hours before Vivian's death, Reynolds entered her home with a gun and threatened to shoot everyone in her house. Police responded, Reynolds fled, yet no mechanism prevented him from accessing Vivian the next day. Vivian had recently ended the relationship. She posted on Facebook about meeting someone who treated her better than Reynolds had in 9 years. She publicly declared her new relationship on December 14th. These represented her decision to permanently separate and build a different life. Reynolds did not accept this separation. Within 24 hours of threatening her family, he was in a vehicle with Vivian. A shot was fired. Vivian died. Reynolds called 911 claiming it was an accident. The case illustrates multiple failure points. 9 years of documented violence did not trigger effective protection. An armed threat 24 hours before the killing did not prevent subsequent contact. Public declarations of separation did not deter the abuser. Prior police involvement did not prevent the lethal outcome. Vivienne Otero's 5 children are being raised by Jaime Otero. They will grow up without their mother. They will carry this trauma throughout their lives. They will face questions without adequate answers. The case against Dimitri Reynolds proceeds through the criminal justice system. The outcome will determine legal accountability. It will not restore what was lost. If this case highlighted the reality of domestic violence and the warning signs we cannot afford to ignore, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps these stories reach people who need to hear them. Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts on Vivian's case or the systemic failures that allowed this to happen. And if you know someone who might be in a similar situation, share this video. Awareness can save lives. Until the next case, stay vigilant.